Today, we begin the Mass for the beginning of the Holy Week with the blessing and the procession with the palms, which was similar to what the people of Jerusalem did when they welcomed Jesus as the Son of David, as we heard in the Gospel right before the procession. But we all knew what happened after that grand welcoming. Jesus was betrayed, He was captured, He was tortured, He was crucified, and He died. Have you ever wondered why we did the similar procession, even though it ended so tragic and so painful for Jesus? Why did we do it at all? Because we know that Jesus would eventually die. Why did we have to do the procession again? There are two ideas that we can unfold here from this ritual of the procession with the palms. First, even though Jesus was crucified and died on the cross, we focus more on the outcome. He died to defeat death Himself because He resurrected from it. He triumphed over death so that we could also do the same through what He did. And second, it was only through this experience of Palm Sunday that the Church invites us to reflect on our own lives, to see if we have also acted the same way as the Jewish people back in the days, welcoming Jesus at first, but crucifying Him in our hearts later. Because we choose sin instead of grace, because we betray Jesus by following the temptations of the devil instead of His teaching. When we were baptized, everything was good. We were so holy. We were so clean. But the more we get into our lives, the lower we get into sins and temptations. It is the same with the procession, no? In the beginning, they welcomed Jesus with joy, with glory. Toward the end, they betrayed Him, they tried to crucify Him, they killed Him. So the first thing I'd like to share with you today is that through the ritual of the procession with the palms today and through the passion narratives that we just heard, we are reminded not just of Jesus' death, but more importantly of His resurrection, of His victory over death, so that we are invited to follow His path of life and grace instead of temptations, instead of sin, instead of death. And as we heard the story of the Passion of Jesus, we often focus more on the suffering of Jesus, and we may overlook how Jesus showed kindness and mercy right in the middle of His last moments living among us. He had the Last Supper with His disciples first, and then He ate with His betrayer. He didn't prevent his betrayer to act. He silently waited and prayed in the garden before they came to capture Him. He prevented His disciples to fight for Him, and He healed the soldier in the garden who was injured. We didn't hear all of those things because I chose the short version today so that we can all sit a little bit earlier. The long version is like 3 times longer than this, but we choose a short version. But if you look around at the Stations of the Cross, you can still see those actions. Jesus showed kindness and mercy to everybody around Him, even in His last moments of life. And then He accepted to be humiliated by the Jewish leaders, by the soldiers. And He actually said in the Passion narrative that He could actually summon the army of angels to protect Him, but He didn't. He obeyed His Father. And He looked and forgave Peter after he denied Him 3 times. He did not fight back when everyone tested Him, challenged Him. If you are the Son of God, do this, do this. He didn't do anything of that. As the Son of God, Jesus had all the power and authority to save Himself. But because of His obedience to God the Father, because of the love He had for all of us, He accepted the pains and the humiliation for Himself so that all of us could see and learn and be benefited, so that all of us could have life through His death. We could all live through His sacrifice. So the second thing I'd like to share with you today is that even in the midst of suffering and humiliation, Jesus showed his obedience, his kindness, and his mercy to all. And we are also called by Jesus today to do the same thing, to follow his path of sacrifice, a sacrifice of our pride, of our hatred, of our temptations, of all the sins that we have, so that we can be witnesses of Jesus about the way, the truth, and the life that he offered us. And today, when we accompany Jesus to the final moments of his life in this world as a human being, we are also invited to reflect on one question. That is how we are going to accept our final moments. How are we going to face our death like Jesus? If God calls us to die tomorrow, how are we going to face our last moments? How are we going to prepare for it? Jesus died on the cross not because of his own sins, but in everything he thought and everything he did, he put the will of God first. He put every one of us first. Then when it is our time to die and to return to God, what will we put first in our lives? Are we going to have all kinds of worries and plans in mind when we die? Are we going to regret about something or about someone when we die? Or are we going to obey God, or rather to hold on to our lives as much as we can? Are we going to put God first? Are we going to put others first the moment we die, like Jesus? Jesus died for us not simply to give us salvation of sins, but he also provided us an example of obedience, of detachment, and of loving others more than himself. He put others first. He put God the Father first. He didn't consider himself important. And so, brothers and sisters, on this Palm Sunday, as we begin Holy Week, let us together reflect on the three ideas that I have just shared with you today. First, by walking with the palms and listening to the gospel today, we are reminded not just about the death of Jesus, but more importantly, of his resurrection. And we are invited to follow his path to life and grace instead of temptations, sins, and death. Second, even in the midst of suffering and humiliation, Jesus showed obedience, showed kindness, and showed mercy to all. And we are also called by Jesus to follow the same path of sacrifice, a sacrifice of our pride, of our hatred, and of all the temptations and sins, so that we can also be witnesses of Jesus in this world. And third, Jesus died not because of his own sins, but in everything he thought and everything he did, he put the will of God the Father first, and he put all of us above himself every moment of his life. So we are called to follow his example, so that we can also put God first, and we can put others first the moment God calls us to heaven. Holy Week is not just about suffering and death, but more importantly, it is about victory, about the resurrection. Show kindness and mercy like Jesus in all circumstances, and put God and others first before ourselves. May God, who has begun a good work in us, also bring it to fruitful completion. Amen.